You're wired in. SmallCapVoice.com.
Welcome, everyone, to the Safety Summit brought to you by SmallCapVoice.com, where we are shining a spotlight on companies that are not only good for your portfolio, but they're good for society as a whole. Now, that may come in the form of protecting us by assisting our first responders, our line of defense around the world, and it also may come in the form of a company that's helping push the envelope of technology for fighting fires. And they're doing so with state-of-the-art patent-pending sprinkler systems. Now, these sprinkler systems are in a wide variety of applications, but they're mostly made for commercial, as I know it. We're going to find out from the CEO. That's Cassie D'Annunzio. But first, let me give you the company's name and ticker symbol. That's Sparx Holding Group, Sparx with an X. Sparx Holding Group Incorporated, traded on the OTC under the ticker symbol SHGI. I want you to learn more about this company. Just use that press release, get social with them, go to the About section, and you'll find their Facebook, their pitch deck, a prototype demonstration. Visit us here at Small Cap Voice as well, because we've done a series of interviews with Cassie D'Annunzio, who I'm going to introduce us to now. Cassie, welcome to the Small Cap Voice Safety Summit, and thanks for making time for us.
Thanks so much for having me, Stuart.
It's wonderful to speak to you again, and we've got a broad new audience today. So before we get into the thick of this interview, let's learn a little bit about the business model and your technology now.
Absolutely. We're so excited to be here at the Safety Summit. First and foremost, talking about safety. Our whole goal is protecting lives, businesses, and property, and designing innovative fire protection equipment to do so. To talk a little bit about the business model, we're designing a smart fire sprinkler system. Our whole goal is to respond to fires as quickly as possible and as smart as possible. We're giving sprinklers the ability to sense fires with flame, gas, smoke, and temperature sensors to get there as quickly as possible. This compares to traditional fire sprinkler technology that exists today that only activates when that sprinkler reaches a fixed temperature threshold. We believe with early detection, getting to fires when they're smaller, that's our best possible chance of delivering the best possible response. We're also equipping our sprinklers the ability to communicate with one another wirelessly so they can coordinate together the best response to the fire.
Yeah, and we've seen in interviews with you before, also, one of the great things is talk to me about what could potentially happen when firefighters hit the scene. They can find a smart display as well that's going to give them information that's not available now in any way, shape, or form.
You got it, Stuart. When firefighters first arrive on the scene at a fire, it's often the first time that they're there. They're not very familiar with the premises, the building, how to kind of gain access to certain parts, and where sprinklers are actually spraying water. So when fire sprinklers first respond to our system, we have a hub that gets mounted in a control room. They can pull up a map that shows exactly where sprinklers are operating in the warehouse. What's unique about our system is we know the position and the location of every single sprinkler that's in there. So when firefighters first arrive on the scene, they can come up to our system. It's very easy to interact with. It's very intuitive. It's a user-friendly touchscreen. They'll be able to easily get a laydown of exactly what's going on and also what the ceiling temperatures are doing, which gives them insight to the structural integrity of the building.
That is amazing. That's going to save lives right there. And this is, as I said earlier, really pushing the envelope of the technology that's available out there today, which is really archaic at this point, because we've seen warehouses go from, well, a normal size to an Amazon type warehouse, which is the size of maybe 10 to 15 football fields. That's why this is so important, right, Cassie?
Absolutely. You got it, Stuart. And what's really devastating is when you see a fully sprinklered building burn. That's what really devastates us. And we're trying to do better with technology in hopes that this will not happen in the future.
Yeah, and we wonder why this hasn't happened yet, but I'm so glad it's you and your company that are mounting this stand and leading the charge. So, speaking of leading the charge, we've always talked to you and found that you've been really on the go and on the move, and that's no different here in the month of March. Last week, you guys were out on the road. Where were you?
We were at the 2024 Fire and Life Safety Conference hosted by the Illinois Fire Inspectors Association just this past week. We were there for an expo. We brought our prototype system, our prototype smart sprinkler system in person. And it was really, really great to be able to have people come and interact with the system. And it was really great to hear what fire sprinkler inspectors had to say about it, what installation professionals in the field had to say about it, and just also to get the industry's response as a whole and get the word out there on what we're trying to do. We learned a lot of really great things at the conference. One of the things that kept coming up time and time again throughout this conference is how challenging modern warehouse fires can be. And Stuart, we heard a really great speaker from the National Fire Sprinkler Association, NFSA. They were speaking, they gave a keynote presentation on modern challenges faced today by firefighters. You see a lot of synthetic materials in these warehouses, highly flammable goods. You see these mega warehouses that you didn't see 60 years ago. It's just extremely challenging. And we don't want firefighters going in there and getting hurt. When there's these storage racks and tons of water is getting, poured on top of them by fire hoses, they get really wet and these storage racks can actually come down. It can be really dangerous. We want to design better technology for these situations that can also hopefully lead to extinguishment in storage settings, shielding the lives of firefighters. So a lot of really great things that came up and happened at this conference. There was also another presentation on the last day on the Friday talking about those modern challenges that warehouses are facing, right in line with what we're trying to do. So it's really awesome to hear the feedback that everybody had for us. I think everyone's excited about the new technology that's coming out in the industry. I know we are too.
Yeah, that feedback has to be invaluable, and just the networking that's happening there as well. And for me, it really tells me about how the growth of your company is coming along from where you were last year to where you are now, being able to present, being able to be part of these exhibits, being able to network with, the state of Illinois. Of course, we know how many fires we have, so many fires in Chicago that have been very noteworthy over the years. And we've got another company part of the Safety Summit that was working on some of these apartment fires as well. And we'll talk to them a little bit later. But Cassie, before I let you go, with the growth that you've had, with the validity and the validation you've heard back from people looking at your company, what's got you most excited about 2024 and the outlook for your company?
Got me most excited about 2024 is just our continued progress. Now that we're about 90% of the way complete with our prototype, we're going to be moving into a testing phase. And I think that's going to be so exciting for our business to show off also how our system's working. We want to get together in 2024 this year, a system test where we can show the communication between sprinklers and just a complete end-to-end of our system detecting the fire, how that data is collected, and then putting out the fire. We want to show just a complete demonstration of that and how our system's operating. We're really looking forward to it.
Well, Cassie, this is your opportunity to speak to new investors as well. From a corporate standpoint, your company is very young as a public company. A lot of opportunities to get in on the ground floor for people. What's got you excited in that area, being a public company?
So being a public company is great. It gives us a great forum to also raise money for the business. We have high testing costs that we're looking at. So we're looking to raise funds so we can hopefully go to third-party entities like UL and get listings and approvals and certifications for our products, really test the rigor of them. I think it's a great company to invest in personally because we're also developing life-saving technology. It's a really great mission. It's something we're passionate and excited about. And I think it's something our investors should be passionate about too.
Yeah, that's the salient theme of the Safety Summit, which is it's good for your portfolio, but it's good for society as a whole. Cassie, thank you so much for your time here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So that's Cassie D'Annunzio, CEO of Sparx Holding Group Incorporated, ticker symbol on the OTC SHGI. And as I said, pull up that ticker symbol, scroll down in the press releases, all that contact information. Get social with this company, learn more about it. See Cassie's demos on Twitter, aka X, and be sure to like and subscribe here at smallcapvoice.com to get more updates on Sparx Holding Group Incorporated. And now we're going to be speaking with a company we joined up with a couple of weeks ago, did a great interview with their CEO, John Lai, and that's PetVivo Holdings Incorporated. They're traded on the Nasdaq under the ticker symbol PETV. Now you can see that video up here. You can visit us at Small Cap Voice on our YouTube, and you can check out that earlier audio interview where we go over all of the foundational parts of the company, the building blocks for the company. But as I was speaking with John during that interview, as we welcome John on now, we learned about the first responders angle of their business model. But before we get into that and how they support the canines and the equine that our first responders work with, John, first, welcome and thanks for making time for us again at Small Cap Voice.
Thank you for having me back.
Absolutely. So John, as I pointed out, let's do a quick reset on the business model. Tell us what is the business model in the markets you operate in?
So we developed a protein particle matrix that mimics cartilage and tissue. The particles are injected into joints by veterinary doctors. We sell the product called Spring with OsteoCushion technology to the vets. They inject. Once it's injected into the joint, it starts to mimic the cartilage and tissue and forms a scaffolding that allows the joint to function properly. So we're adding to long-term joint health.
So specifically, as I mentioned, then when we talk, and I should point this out first, go to springhealth.com and you can see the spelling of spring right there on John's background, springhealth.com. And I want you to learn more about the company as well at PetVivo, VIVO.com. So John, when we talk about your products and what you've done here for the health of our fur babies, as I called them in our first interview, it's not just our home pets, it's also the equine, the horses. Let's talk a little bit about how this does play into our officers out there on the front lines here in America and how they deal with the injuries that their animals can run into, like the canine dogs that work with our police officers.
Sure. So we actually have a nonprofit called PetVivoCares.org. And through that organization, we donate to military dogs, horses, police dogs, police horses, and also to service dogs and so on, because we recognize the importance of having these important animals in key areas of protection and so on. To train one of these service dogs for the police and so on, it's about $30,000 per dog. So if we can extend the quality of life and the life of the serviceability of the dog by 2-3 years, it's pretty significant. And we have seen the product work extremely well in dogs, that are 8-9 years old, where they get a couple more years of quality work and life out of the dog. And it's meaningful, especially for the military that are, the veterans that are suffering from PTSD and so on. A service dog is very important to them and helping them cope with society and bringing them back in functioning with society. So when you go through a change, it's very tough for the soldier because you don't have a dog for a little bit and they're training a new one in and coming in. It's a family member. It's clearly a family member to these veterans and military.
Yeah, absolutely. And you and I have a personal relationship to this very same topic. I have a chocolate lab and we looked into the surgical alternative for her, but quite honestly, having to crate the dog for almost 10 weeks, it's just not in her nature to be like that. So again, I know exactly what you're talking about when you say to giving that extension of life and extension of service. So, well, let's talk about your company then specifically. Here in 2024, it's only been a few weeks since I've interviewed you, but I've seen your press wire light up like a Christmas tree. So lots going on for you and your company. What's got you excited about PETV, that's the ticker symbol, PetVivo Holdings Incorporated, John?
I think the last time we talked, The study on hip dysplasia did not come out yet. So, and that was a very good first cohort study for us. It literally showed 85% of the dogs on a scale 1 to 5, 5 being one of the worst cases of hip dysplasia. We were able to bring those dogs back down at day 84 after the injection to a level 2, which means they had a mild case. So that was a very powerful first cohort, and that leads to a much bigger study, because that's how you do these studies is you set targets. If you hit or exceed the target, you go into the next phase where it becomes statistically significant, as the statisticians say. So you add more dogs to the study. We also have 5 other studies coming. And I think we may have just cleared 2 of the what we call tolerability studies for cats and dogs when we talked last time. And to reiterate that, you want the product to be described by the people doing the study as the same effects of saline solution. That's what it basically said in terms of being injected into the animal's body. Because if you have a reaction, that's not a good thing. So to be compared to saline, it's probably one of the best results you can get.
Wow, exciting times, and those are great results already. And you just talked about it. You're on the precipice of a lot of other studies coming up. So this is the moment I want to give you the opportunity as the CEO speaking to potentially new investors. What would you like to say to them? What's got you again excited about where the company as a corporation, as a public entity stands today as well? Because, you know, your cap structure is great. You're a newly listed company on the Nasdaq. You got a lot of things going for you, John.
So at the end of 2023, we announced the addition of Covetrus, which is the largest distributor in the world on a global basis. But in the United States, they're probably number 2. MWI Animal Health is number 1. So we have the number 1 and 2 distributors carrying our product. And I think that speaks volumes of what they see the potential of the product to be. Because in the 9 months of 2024, we did a slightly under $1 million in revenue. So, you know, we'll report the fourth quarter or year end as March 31st. So for companies that are doing over 5 billion just in the United States to care about a company doing $1 million and doing a distribution agreement, I think reiterates how we feel about the potential growth of the product. And as we're getting more and more of these clinical results and more of the key opinion leaders coming out and speaking about Spryng and their successes, we're going to get much better adoption in the marketplace, and hence providing better medical outcomes for our pets and horses, as well as saving the consumer money on healthcare costs as we look at possible multimodal approaches to osteoarthritis and alternatives to surgery.
Outstanding. And again, as you pointed out, extending the life of these canines that are working for not only our police officers, but for our military, and not only our military abroad, but the ones at home that need those service dogs for a better, softer landing here back home side. John, it's always great to catch up with you. I'm very proud of the opportunity to get to speak to you and your company for the work that you're doing. Huge pet lover, huge dog lover here. So I just want to thank you for being part of the SmallCapVoice.com Safety Summit. Thanks for your time. We're going to welcome you back here shortly for our live Q&A session as well. Thanks so much, John.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, for John Lai, Stuart Smith here saying, make sure you add this ticker PETV, go to the website PetVivo.com, go visit our earlier audio interview with the video interview with the company. And then if you'd like to learn more about Spryng, it's SpryngHealth.com. For John Lai, this is Stuart Smith saying, thanks so much for tuning in.
Hey everyone, I'm Kevin Gray and I'm the show director here at Small Cap Voice. Wanted to take a moment to say thank you for checking out our safety summit here. For around 25 years now, Small Cap Voice has been working to shine a spotlight on undiscovered and up-and-coming companies in the small and micro cap space. just like those here at our summit. Our goal is to provide investors with a different style of investor relations, a more modern style that meets shareholders at their current expectations. So if that sounds like something you're into, or if you're enjoying our summit here today, let us know in the comments and hit that subscribe button too. Our subscribers and viewers are what fuel this channel with content and give us the ability to do even more hard-hitting and insightful interviews with C-levels all over the world. So thank you guys again for checking out our summit. Let's get right back into it. We still got our live Q&A coming up at the end, but next up we're going to hear from Knightscope about how their autonomous robots are literally helping the LAPD fight crime.
Hey everybody, it's Stuart Smith, and once again, thank you for joining us here at Small Cap Voice for our Safety Summit. Now, our next guest is a company that I spoke with a few years ago in the height of COVID. Let me go ahead and give that ticker symbol a name out. The company is Knightscope. They're traded on the Nasdaq under the ticker symbol KSCP. Go ahead and make your way to the company's website. It's beautiful. You can take a look at Knightscope, like a knight in shining armor with a K, Knightscope.com. The company recently concluded its Innovation Week, which we're going to ask the CEO, William Santana Lee, about. But I want to give you a caveat here. The last time I interviewed this company, I went out and I did become a shareholder. So even before they became public, I took part in their IPO. I was excited to do so. I'm excited to still be a shareholder today. And with that, let's welcome Bill to the show. Bill, how are you? It's good to speak with you again.
I'm good. I'm really excited to be on this Guitar Center advertisement. Looks like we're all good to go. You got the acoustic section, I got the electric section. We're ready and open for business, right?
We're ready to rock. Absolutely. I'm glad you pointed that out. I saw that myself. Well, Bill, we've got a lot of people that are going to be new to your company. So for the newbies, what's the business model? What's the markets that you operate there in Knightscope?
Sure. Knightscope's a public safety innovator. It's the practical application of AI to help public safety, law enforcement, and security professionals do their jobs much, much more effectively. We build these somewhat crazy autonomous security robots that are patrolling across the country. It's a unique combination of autonomy, AI, robotics, and electric vehicle technology to give an officer and a guard really smart eyes, ears, and their voice on the ground in multiple locations at the same time.
Yeah, I love it. I know a lot about the company, and I learned it all at your website and some of the IPO documents that were circulated. But it is more than, I mean, the verticals that you can tap into excited me so much during COVID. But since then, I've been so impressed with the applications of it. And if you just go to Knightscope.com and you click on what we do, then you can see who we serve. And it's the airports, commercial real estate. You know, again, your shopping malls, your strip malls, your warehouses, homeowner associations. So again, that's your private communities behind the gate, saving some money this way, Bill. The company, as I mentioned, went public within the past few years. Looking back on the history of the company, whether it's pre-public or public, what do you see as the major achievements for the company so far?
We proved that it worked. Everyone told us, like, you guys are out of your mind. This will never work. It's hardware and software is too complicated. This is not a business that you can build. And now we've operated nearly 3 million hours in the field. And again, practical application of AI, not a science project, not a demo, not, some R&D project. I think the other one would be actual crime fighting wins. If you go to knightscope.crime, you can see the nice long list of positive contributions the machines have already had. I think we've generated well over $30 million of lifetime revenue. So we've proven that the market's there. And we have clients renew 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years now. And the business model is unique in its machine as a service. So we don't sell the robots or the software or the hardware or anything out separately. It's as low as 75 cents an hour to $9 an hour. And if you look at one of the things that we shared during the Innovation Week, if you look at our most successful clients that have been around for 5+ years with us, if you look at those profit margins, they're around 60%. And so we actually proven the business model, we've proven the technology. Now it's time to scale up. And on that last point, we spent the last 3 years on a very rigorous cybersecurity review process with the U.S. federal government. and recently got awarded our Authority to Operate, or ATO. So I'm really excited about that because I personally believe that's going to add billions of opportunity for our total addressable market. So I guess to sum it all up, the robots are here and the robots will be everywhere.
That is outstanding to hear as a shareholder. And to the potential shareholders, you did just wrap up Innovations Week. It was a full week. I looked at the agenda for it. Unfortunately, I'm here at Small Cap Voice, wasn't able to attend. I'm sure you had a great response from your existing shareholders. But for the people that are new to your company today here at the Small Cap Voice Safety Summit, why should they add your company to their watch list, to do their due diligence, to add you to their portfolio? This is your soapbox moment, Bill. I know you're good at it. Preach.
You missed Innovation Week? How could you possibly miss Innovation Week?
I don't know.
Anyway,
I got to be
we've
honest
got you
with you. I
covered.
got to work less, Bill. I got to just work less, but go ahead.
We got you covered. If you go to knightscope.com/rise, as in Rise of the Robots, the recap of the days are all there for you, and you get the full experience except for the live Q&A. So all that content is there for you. So it's real simple. The market for crime is never going to collapse, right? It's not like 332 million Americans are all going to wake up tomorrow morning and have no issues. So we don't have a market risk. We don't have a technology risk now that we've proven, things can be improved, but now that we've proven it works, and now it's all about execution. And we've had double-digit growth the last few years. We went from 3.4 million in top line revenue to 5.6 million. I think I'm comfortable in saying that we ended 2023 in the 12 to $13 million range, and we're looking for continued double-digit growth. So if you think in the next few years, autonomy, robotics, electric vehicle technology, AI are going to make a huge impact in the markets, then you definitely need to take a look at Knightscope, because we're literally at the intersection of all those technologies working on the nation's most pressing issue of public safety.
Yeah, absolutely. And so much documentation coming out. So many people who have finally said, look, this isn't a part of NVIDIA. AI is its own market. Yes, NVIDIA is driving it right now. SMCI is driving it right now. But it's a rising tide that's going to lift all boats. And like you just said, Knightscope is right there at the intersection of it. Bill, thanks so much for taking part in Safety Summit with us here at Small Cap Voice. It was wonderful catching up with you again. Thanks for your time, Bill.
And good to see you. And don't ever forget, long Knightscope and short the criminals. We'll see you on the other side.
I love it. I love it. So the company is located in California. You've got everything you need to know about them. Bill's going to be joining us again a little bit later for the live Q&A with the other CEOs. So for Bill Lee, this is Stuart Smith saying thanks so much for joining us. And now I'm joined by KULR Technology Group. KULR Technology Group is traded on the NYSE American Exchange under the ticker symbol KULR, and I am lucky enough to be joined by the CEO of the company, and that's Michael Moe. Michael, thank you so much for making time for us today for our Safety Summit.
Thank you, Stuart. Great to be here.
Great to speak with you, Michael. So we are speaking to companies that are publicly traded, that are great for people's portfolios, but they're also good for our society as a whole. They protect us in many different various ways. Michael, let's learn about the business model and the markets that your company's operated in, and we'll take it from there.
Great. Yeah, quick introduction about KULR. We solve lithium-ion battery safety problems. As you may know, the lithium-ion batteries that power your phone, your laptop, EVs, electric planes coming up, they can go to thermal runaway, which is the phenomenon that battery catch fire and become catastrophic. So we've developed proprietary IP, and we put together a world-class team to provide the solution for energy storage applications, electric mobility, battery storage, recycling applications, all surrounding battery safety. And we come from a very long history in a heritage of working in aerospace and defense applications. Our product is on the Mars rover Perseverance, and also the International Space Station. We work closely with NASA to protect the astronauts' laptop batteries and portable batteries safe on the ISS. Now we're applying these space-proven technologies, selling them as services and products for mass commercial applications.
Well, that's what I've seen recently, Michael. Let's talk a little bit about some of the recent news and even some of the social media posts, as you pointed out, with the military defense, aerospace applications, and all the other commercial applications for your technologies.
Yes, we've had a few very exciting press releases recently. First is our partnership with NanoRacks, which is a part of the Voyager space. We provide them our KULR One space battery platform for their commercial cell applications. The KULR One space battery is designed to meet NASA's battery safety standard for crew space missions. We're able to serve this customer, among others, at record time to meet their tight schedule and also very stringent technical requirements. We've also announced our partnership, our expansion of our partnership, our contract with Army DevCom to over $1.8 million on our KULR One Guardian platform, which is going really well, and we expect to go to prototype production with the customer in second half of 2024. Last but not least is our SafeCase technology. That's a battery storage technology that's adopted from what we put on the International Space Station. From that, we receive a new special permit from U.S. Department of Transportation for battery recycling and transportation applications. This opens a door for us to serve some of the largest smartphone and consumer electronics companies in their battery recycling efforts. In addition, we're also working with one of the largest automotive OEMs in the world to test for their battery safety in our SafeCase so they can use it on their production facility as well. Recently, you may have seen our social post. We're located in San Diego, California. So we work with San Diego Fire Department to demonstrate the efficacy of our SafeCase with the firefighters, and the response has been overwhelming. So we get a lot of inquiries from first responders, firefighters, the fire departments around the country to try our technology, try our solution to save lives.
Wow, so many angles with your company, which another way to say that is so many verticals, and another way to say that, so many revenue streams. Viewers, go look at that press wire using that ticker symbol KULR. As Michael mentioned, the SafeCase is just one of many applications that this company is monetizing now from their great work with NASA and their history with NASA and the space station and the Mars Perseverance. So much going on with KULR Technology Group. Well, Michael, with so much going on and so much good happening around you here in 2024, what should investors be looking for from you and your company, and what should they be excited about?
Well, three things that we focus on is growth, our balance sheet, and cash flow. The opportunity talked about is surrounding our KULR One platform and also the SafeCase, and we are very focused on the growth in those two platforms, as I mentioned. So we're doubling down on the development of those in our new facility in Texas, near the NASA Johnson Space Center. It will be our center of excellence to serve our customers and also develop the best battery safety technology for the industry. Second, we've been working very hard in cleaning up our balance sheet, which I believe has been the major overhang over our stock. Once that is, once we clean it up, I think that our shareholders will enjoy the appreciation and the realization of the real value of KULR. Third, we're working on improving our productivity and efficiency by focusing our resources on these key growth areas, and also potentially divesting some of the non-core technology that we've developed over the years. We expect these initiatives to lower our cost and hopefully expect to get to cash flow positive in second half of 2024.
Excellent. Well, listeners and viewers, you can see exactly why KULR Technology Group is part of this Safety Summit. One, they're great for your portfolio, but two, they're great for society in many different applications that can protect us from transportation, to assisting first responders, to assisting our defense and military as well. Michael, I look forward to our next segment with you, where you'll be a part of our live Q&A with some of the other CEOs that are joining us today. Thanks so much for your time here right now, Michael, and we'll speak to you here very soon.
Great. Thank you very much, Stuart.
All right, for Michael Moe of KULR Technologies, this is Stuart Smith saying hold on the line. We're going right over to our live Q&A. All right. Sorry about that. All right. So, hey, we're ready to go right now. Thanks so much, everybody, for your patience and your time today as we launch our first safety summit here. I'm joined by several CEOs that you've just gotten to know through their segments that we recorded earlier. Bill Lee of Knightscope, ticker symbol KSCP, is unable to join us, but he has recorded his segment with me with your questions that you've been sending in all throughout this week. But with that, let me tell you who my other guests are. You just watched their video roll. We've got John Lai. John is with PetVivo Holdings Incorporated. They're on the Nasdaq under the ticker symbol PETV. We've also got Michael Moe. He is the CEO of KULR Technology Group. They're on the New York Stock Exchange under this ticker symbol KULR. And we also have Cassie D'Annunzio. They are on the OTC under the ticker symbol SHGI. Welcome to all of my guests. I'm going to start with you, Cassie. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about some things that have been sent in to us, following up some of the questions we've already actually even asked you. When we look at you, Cassie, and what you've recently done, you mentioned that you were at a conference. You've talked about some of the feedback that you've gotten, a lot of positive feedback, but we all know companies can grow as well, and even more so from constructive criticism. What's some of that feedback been like for you, Cassie?
Great question, Stuart. The positive feedback has been so excellent. It's so nice when people come up to us and they say, you know, this is a great idea. Why didn't we think of this sooner? We love hearing that, but what we honestly love hearing more is the constructive feedback, especially now while we're in the design and development stage of our smart fire sprinkler system. This is the time when we want to take all of that feedback so we can put it right back into our design. If we were farther down the road in, say, production and inventory buildup and rolling this out to our customers, it's a lot harder when we're scaling to make those changes. So we welcome it now and we want to hear it now. The voice of the customer is really important to us and the voice of the industry as a whole. There's a lot of cooks in the kitchen when it comes to our product. We have inspectors that will have to test it. We have installers that will install it. We just want to hear all of the feedback so we can do the best we can with our product development. Some of the biggest constructive points that we heard were in regards to inspection, testing, and maintenance. A lot of the inspectors just want to make sure that this system will be fairly easy for them to test. Our system could easily be 80 feet in the air in a storage and warehousing setting. It can be difficult to access and also just difficult to see when it's that high up in the air. So we're taking in all of this feedback and we're pouring it back into our design. We're making sure that on our hub, we're going to be able to display a lot of the data and the analytics to the inspectors and be able to pull reports from the hub to gain more insight on the health of the system. We're also taking the feedback for any sort of automated testing that we can do for our products, and we're going to be looking into incorporating that as well.
Well, so Cassie, there are hurdles that you're going to face as well. And we've got some veteran CEOs of listed companies, but we've also got you as an OTC company. You know, with the progress that you've made this year, I think a couple of things come to mind. Funding is always paramount, whether you're on the OTC, the NASDAQ, or the NYSE, and also, you know, testing and licensing for your company. And we're going to get into that with all the different CEOs. What are the challenges that you see as a young CEO, Cassie?
That's a great question too, Stuart.
Recording stopped.
As
Recording
a young
in progress.
CEO, it's really difficult. I think as a young CEO too, in the fire sprinkler and fire suppression space, it's even more challenging. Our industry sees a lot of these key players, these titans. There's 4 or 5 main sprinkler manufacturers, and they've been dominating the industry for quite some time. But on the flip side, I think actually that leaves the door open a little bit for some real disruptive innovation to come into this space. What's unique about me, I guess, I am a young CEO. I'm a millennial. There's no secret in that, for better or for worse. But being a millennial, I think arguably we're the generation that's almost, I think, the best with technology. As I was growing up, computers were growing up with me. And I think that's pretty unique. I'm able to adapt to technological change really quickly, I think, with my millennial peers. I think being a millennial CEO puts me in a unique position to really apply innovation and technology in a space that has been predominantly mechanical. For all the viewers out there watching, if you're in your condo complex or apartment complex, take a look and check out the fire sprinklers around you. If you're not able to do that, if you go to a store the next time you're in a store, Walmart or Target, take a look at the fire sprinklers there. You'll notice that they're mechanical devices. There isn't really anything electrical about them. We have such an opportunity to inject technology into this space and achieve faster detection and smarter response. We're really excited for it. So I think while some may see me as a young CEO, I'm looking at all of the advantages that I can bring to the table with technological innovation.
Well, I love it. You just made everybody else feel really old on this call, but we appreciate that. All the glitches that I'm putting through and all the curveballs I'm throwing at you, you have handled them beautifully. Now let's move on, and we're going to come back to you here in a minute, Cassie, because I'd love to hear some of the feedback from John and Michael on any advice they may have for a young CEO like yourself. But John, let's talk to you next. Let's learn more about some of the follow-up questions that we had that are directly coming from your shareholders and directly regarding your recent news. In December, you shared that you've surpassed 4,500 syringes delivered to vets for treatment. How has that increased in the 3 months following in terms of distribution? So can we get an update on your distribution, John?
Well, with Reg FD, we really can't talk about the numbers, but I can tell you in December, late December, we added Covetrus, which is a very large distributor. And then we had two major trade shows, the two largest in the United States, one being the VMX in Orlando in early January, and then the other one being at the Western Veterinary Conference in mid-February. So with those two trade shows where we got so many of the vets mentioning our product that were keynote speakers, key opinion leaders, we were looking good from that standpoint as we expanded distribution channels, having number 1 and 2 players in the world in distribution on board.
All right. And John, we know now from your news and from earlier interviews with you that only licensed veterinarians can administer Spryng. Please elaborate on your vet education programs, the importance of the CE credits they can earn from these webinars and seminars on Spryng. Tell us why that's important, John.
Sure. So we had recent studies come out that were very good and strong in favor of Spryng for certain conditions such as hip dysplasia and ruptured CCLs. With that, we're able to apply to get CE credits for the various accreditations like veterinary medical associations. And that's a very integral part and important on walking a veterinary clinic through how Spryng can benefit their practice, benefit their clients, and improve and give better outcomes in the areas of osteoarthritis, lameness, and rehab. So that's a very important aspect of education. And that's what we're doing. And we're doing that with also our distribution partners, because they have arms that are out there specifically to educate their customers as it relates to our product and usage or just innovations within the area.
Well, very good. Thank you, John. And again, I have more questions for you later on in this interview, but right now I would like to get to Mr. Michael Moe. Michael, thanks so much for joining us here today at the Safety Summit for SmallCapVoice.com. We do, as always, since we handle your shareholder calls and questions, have a lot of questions for you. Let's get to some of the ones first that kind of really resonate with a lot of the news that's come out this week. Viewers, if you're here for Knightscope, if you're here for SHGI, if you're here for PETV, it's undeniable the week that KULR has had. Michael, let's talk about this first. What can you share about the reason these large companies are putting importance on your tech? And I think it's self-explanatory with some of your other comments earlier, but why does the way you do battery safety matter compared to your competition and other solutions?
Yeah, Stuart, thank you so much for having me. I think it's because I look like the oldest guy in the room. That's why the customer trusts me. No, I'm just kidding. Although I do look like the oldest guy in the room, but I like to have the energy and the youth that Kathy and everybody else has. So let's get that out of the way. So, but anyhow, yeah, the customers that we serve, Stuart, they really care about battery safety. They really care about that as the top priority for their products, or at least one of the top priorities for their products. And that's why they come to KULR, and then now they're coming to KULR for our KULR One platform. We provide the one-stop shop for aerospace, for defense, for energy storage. Customers to come to us, go through our suite of technology. We believe it's the best suite of technology in the industry. And then we believe that we have assembled the best team in the industry to serve these customers. And that's why they come to us, and that's how we win business.
Well, Michael, you mentioned earlier in our segment before this that the new special permit from the Department of Transportation has really opened the doors to some of the world's largest smartphone companies. How do you envision KULR's role with, let's say, some of the top smartphone companies like Apple and Samsung?
Well, that's really exciting news for us to get the new special permit from Department of Transportation for battery recycling, DDR, which is defective batteries, and the prototype batteries. So we work very closely with our recycling partners who actually handle the logistics, the on-the-ground work with these consumer electronics companies, retailers, and OEMs, and to put their products into the safe case, into the safe sleeve, and so forth. Then we work very closely with fire department, as some of you may have seen on our social posts, some of the work that we've done with San Diego, the fire department. And so we're very, very excited about that. And we hope to see our safe case in action in retail locations and operations very soon.
Well, this next question is going to be for yourself and for Cassie, but I'm going to ask you this too right now since you're on the camera, Michael. So we've got e-bike fires. They make news coast to coast. We've seen them in New York over the past year with the store in Manhattan, the warehouse in Brooklyn. How can companies, but also consumers, immediately mitigate this risk? Is there a solution in place from KULR that you're working on, or like I said, in place? How would the respective technologies better assist first responders in extinguishing these fires? And I saw that social media post with the San Diego Fire Department. That's exactly what it looked like you were working on there.
Yeah, that's correct. That's the work we do. And then I guess the answer is simple. Just use our safe case. Contact me at michael.mo@kulrtechnology.com or sales team at sales@kulrtechnology.com. We'll get you some safe case to put your batteries inside. If they happen to go to thermal runaway, we can get them taken care of. And then we're also putting an online store together very soon, so you can order online directly.
All right. And Cassie, I want to ask you the same question. I'm not going to say, well, listen, everything I've heard about your company is warehouses. How do you transition to apartments? I'll just let you answer the question. You heard it. How can SHGI help mitigate some of these e-bike fires? Because we know they happen in giant warehouses as well.
Yes, they do, Stuart. And you mentioned that this is happening in New York. It's really a nationwide problem and a global problem as well. It's happening everywhere. And for us, really, what's important is when the fire happens, we try and think too, not if, but when, and try and approach it from that perspective. When the fire happens, early detection is huge for lithium-ion battery fires. With our system, we're able to sense so many different factors like flame, gas, smoke, and temperature. With our system, by acting very soon and very early on in a lithium-ion battery fire, we feel as though we'd be best positioned to provide the best possible response with fire sprinklers. So early detection is really huge for us in this space.
All right, excellent. Thank you, both of you, for that. John, let me ask you another follow-up question. And again, we've pointed out all the things that you do for our pets, but not only that, for the first responders, our military coming back at home. But over the years, there have been reports and surveys from organizations like the American Veterinary Medical Association that discuss the long delays and hurdles associated specifically with getting animal medicine and treatments approved. So a lot of us people, we don't hear about that side of it, how the FDA works with the animals. So in some instances, those delays were 3 to 4 times the required 180 days that the FDA tells people. The FDA trials are truly a gauntlet for companies to go through. But how has PetVivo prepared them for this instance? How have you laid the groundwork for these kind of future approvals from the FDA, John?
So the good thing is we were funded by NIH and DoD. So a lot of peer review science, and all the work was done on the human side. So we're in a unique position where we actually have the FDA designating our product as a human medical device. So once you have that designation, you look at the animal health side of the market for the FDA, they give you automatic clearance for sales and marketing. So like many early stage or micro cap companies within the medical area, the biggest risk is regulatory clearance. That risk is greatly mitigated because we don't have to do any studies. We're only doing the studies for the purpose of marketing and proving efficacy. So our studies are much quicker, and there is no prohibition on us selling while these studies are getting completed and published, because we do have a pretty good application of real world uses and case studies. And the veterinary doctors do look at some of the published studies we have, and they're comfortable in using the product. And as more and more comes out, it becomes more and more comfortable.
Well, John, this next question I'm going to kind of modify slightly for you, because I'm going to ask everybody this. So then in dealing with, let's say, local, state, federal, you really only are going to deal, I would assume, with less municipalities and mostly on a national level. Have you had to modify anything? Have you had to change the way you approach your target markets because of dealing with regulators?
No, because FDA is a federal. So once you meet that, you don't have to worry about any state and local. Now, when you go international, it's another story. Like in Health Canada, as we look at getting clearance, I think for Quebec, we're going to have to do a lot of French translation on our packaging and stuff like that. But other than that, I don't see any major regulatory hurdles to get into the rest of the world. But we have so much to do here in the United States. And given the latest survey, it shows that 34 million dogs now have some form of osteoarthritis out of the 80 million dogs that's out there. So it's actually picking up the rate. And it makes sense, because all the dogs that were adopted during COVID are getting older. And as you get older, there's a direct correlation of the onset of osteoarthritis. And that's where we feel that we're going to see some very good growth in this market over the next 5 years.
So Cassie, let me ask you that question then. I know there's a lot of licensing and permitting that you have to deal with. So I would assume that feedback that comes back to you would obviously somewhat tweak, adjust your technologies and how you approach your target markets and consumers.
Absolutely, Stuart. And for us working with local governments and municipalities and at the federal level, we haven't really done that yet, but it's on our roadmap. Fire codes and standards are directly correlated to the adoption and fire protection laws and safety laws that come into play in local governments. Right now, in NFPA, there's really only a definition for electronic fire sprinklers. There really isn't any guidance on how to use them or how they can be beneficial or how to implement them. So our goal is to really start at the codes and standards level and just build an understanding with education on the technology and the best practices for it, and then translate that over to local state governments as well. And now with technology too, there are local authorities having jurisdiction and local fire departments that we're going to want to just build awareness on our system as well. So education for governments and municipalities, this is going to be huge on the Sparx roadmap moving forward.
Outstanding. Well, Michael, as we pointed out, you have products and services for not only aerospace, military, but consumer applications as well. I'm thinking you've got to run a myriad of gauntlets to get your products approved. It's got to be an entire segment of your business model just pushing these things through. Is that true?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The safe case, definitely get the Department of Transportation special permits, so that our customer can use it. For transportation, the battery, the KULR One platform, the battery safety technology is really enabling our customer to go through certification. So the KULR One Space, which is for the space applications for batteries, the big application is to meet the NASA Johnson Space Center JSC 20793 requirement. Sorry, I'm getting nerdied out on this one, but this is the requirement that's needed to pass so that your battery is fitted to go to the moon. All right, so it needs to pass. Needless to say, it's probably the most stringent battery safety requirement. So it's fitted to be on a crew space mission to go to the moon. So we put the technology suite together from screening the battery cell, testing for safety, all the way to the battery pack to meet that safety standard. So as NASA ramps up and accelerate the Artemis program later 2024, and all the way to getting a settlement on the moon by 2028, you're gonna have a lot of infrastructures, equipment, everything's gonna be powered by get the energy generation from solar and energy storage in lithium-ion batteries. So all those batteries needs to pass those safety standards. So that's what we do for the customer, and then we use that capability to apply to other applications such as electric aviation. So you got the eVTOLs, electric planes. So we have a lot of customers around that area. The DoD application obviously is big. You want the soldiers and your military the vehicles and everything to be safe. So we're working with Army DEFCON for their next generation battery pack to go to the helicopters. Lockheed Martin for underwater vehicle. The battery safety. So yeah, it's just that suite of tools can be applied to multiple applications.
So Michael, we do have a live chat that's running right now, and I have a cell phone. Imagine that. And I just got texted a question, but before I get to that, I know I've spoken with the team, and everybody wants to know about the earnings call and earnings date. And if you don't mind, I'll confirm right now that a press release will be issued next week announcing the date of the earnings and the call. Is that fair for me to do, Michael?
That's fair to say, yes. Yes, Stuart.
All right. And then I did get a question. This one's very timely because of the news, and I have become, over the past 3 years, close enough with your shareholders. I get their questions on my cell phone. A lot of investors are curious about this, though. You just were able to take out some legacy debt and finally get it retired. They want to know, is another capital raise like you did this year, is that something the company is considering in order to shore up your balance sheet? Can you answer that for us, Michael?
Yeah, Stuart, what you might mean to say was that similar to the deals that we did last year, 2023, I can say that we have no plan or interest in doing CMPOs or RDs, which is registered direct at this moment. Now that the Yorkville debt is behind us, we're 100% focused on rebuilding our shareholder value.
All right, you're right. That was last year, and it's written right here in front of me, not this year. All right, now's the time where, before I thank my guests, I really want to thank the people who are in our live chat right now. I want to thank everybody who's tuned in today. I know these CEOs want to thank their shareholders. I have seen a comment in that live chat about each and every one of you. And Michael, you telling a joke, they loved it. So, and Cassie, you making us all feel old, they love that too. And it's probably fair enough. John and I share the same barber. John, I want to thank you so much for your time, and thank you for making us part of your busy day here to speak to your shareholders and be a part of the Safety Summit. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
And Cassie, as the young gun here, we so appreciated your perspective and learning about your company. I saw somebody type in there, wow, talk about a ground floor opportunity. This is a great time for people to discover SHGI.
Thank you so much for having us. And yes, definitely check us out. We're excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
You bet. Michael Moe, as always, it's wonderful to catch up with you. Thanks for making time for us at the Safety Summit. Congratulations on all the big news. And I will be speaking with you and moderating that earnings call here in the very near future. Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, no, thank you, Stuart. Hey, John, if you can send me your barber's contact information, I would love to have it. Yeah.
Perfect. Just email me.
Perfect. Thank you, John. Yeah.
I think we all want Cassie's barber. I think what you meant to say, we all want Cassie, or at least I want Cassie's barber. Wish I could have that. All right,
I'll share that with you offline, Stuart.
Excellent. Excellent.
Excellent, everybody. Thanks so much. And we're out, Kevin. If you can, our producer will, I think, now in the stream for us. Thanks, guys. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us again at the Safety Summit. As you saw earlier, we had some technical issues getting our stream up to YouTube. And because of that, right now, Bill Lee has an incredibly busy schedule. As you might imagine, he is the CEO of Knightscope. We did already get your questions. We do see you're still posting questions on the live stream. We appreciate that. But we're going to get these questions out to Bill first because, again, he's got an appointment at the top of the hour. Bill, thank you so much for joining my producer and myself here today. Thanks for your time again, Bill, and your patience.
Technical issues with technology? Like
With
we have to
YouTube?
have all these robots running 24/7 across the country in the rain and everything else, and you got a Zoom issue?
If you can just give me a robot right here, I'll call it square on this. I promise.
All
We'll
right.
be good. All right. Well, listen, we did get questions from your shareholders. I do appreciate that so much from them. So let's just jump in there. And I've talked to you about this before in the past. When you look at the flow of your news, geographically speaking, you've hit all the marks. You've checked a lot of boxes. Okay. But we want to know more and more about the jurisdictions that have bought in, maybe what the feedback is from the people in those communities, and is there a target market that you have on your agenda that maybe you have not tapped into yet, that you are really trying to get into that hasn't happened for you? Because again, the news is prolific.
I think the one that we're just getting in the door is on the federal space. So I think a lot of folks know that we spent 3 years working on a cybersecurity review process. We just finally got our authority to operate with the U.S. federal government. And so we're putting the finishing touches on the machine, the K5 Gov version, which on the outside looks exactly like anybody else's new machine from us. On the inside, it's literally completely brand new product that meets all the federal requirements. So we're birthing that new product as we speak now, trying to get the machine through QA, and hopefully we get that deployed. I think that's going to open up a huge opportunity for us in the federal space. And so we've had a lot of success in commercial real estate, healthcare, casinos, corporate campuses, and it continues. It's not like crime and terrorism like focus on one vertical. Like that's not the way to think about it.
100%. And speaking of that, how it's progressing, let's talk about some of the recent news. Specifically, you announced an MOU with Dragonfly. So now we get drones and robots in a marriage together. So let's talk a little bit about how you're going to basically get this new partnership across and local law enforcement, military surveillance. What are the applications for this new union, this new MOU, Memorandum of Understanding?
Yes, our friends at Dragonfly have been working on drones. If I'm not mistaken, the oldest drone manufacturer in North America. So we've got a lot of experience. We've had a lot of interest from folks wanting to, as I often say, give officers and guards really smart eyes, ears, and voice on the ground and in the air. And if we can combine all these technologies to give unprecedented situational awareness, that's going to allow for a unique combination of technologies to deliver something a bit magical, right? You're able to kind of see from all different angles what an officer or guard might be getting themselves into before they arrive. And we're really excited to be working with the team at Dragonfly.
That's exciting. Well, listen, again, I know you're busy and we just so appreciate your patience today. One of the questions we're asking all the CEOs for the Q&A today, in such a heavily regulated space, and you have to deal with municipalities, state, federal. Listen, what for your company, that has got to be an extensive learning curve for your company. And can you tell me a little bit about how it's shaped how you implement your technology? Have you had to adjust things? Have you had to adapt state to state? And of course, now you mentioned onto the federal level.
I think from a regulatory standpoint, obviously we're 50 state compliant today. Second, as I often say, no one in the history of mankind has done this before, so there isn't really specific regulations for what we're doing. What we try to do is avoid, crossing a public road, just so we're not, in the purview of the U.S. Department of Transportation. But other than that, we're on private roads. There are some audio issues where, what we record and don't record, and we got to make sure we're compliant there with the appropriate markings and announcements and the like. But the rest of it's kind of wide open. So we've been spending some time. One of my teammates is on a few councils to start thinking about future regulations. I think on a side note, similar would be back to the cyber side of things. I think the federal government has, you know, a certain level of requirement. And I think what I've seen over the last 2 or 3 years as we work with all these clients in the private sector is the increase in cyber requirements on the private sector to start getting very close to what the federal authorities are looking for. And I think, you know, cyber for a lot of CEOs now is not just mandatory cost of doing business, but an unfortunate time sink and abyss of resources because it is a daunting amount of workload and costs.
Well, I know why I'm excited to be a shareholder of Knightscope, and I fully disclosed that at the beginning of this safety summit. What's got you most excited here in 2024? Let's get that one more time before I let you go.
All the stuff behind me. We just finished Knightscope's Innovation Week, talk about all things past and then all things in the future. And we want to build this very large portfolio of technologies. We announced the progress on the K7 four-wheel multi-terrain ASR, you know, concepts for a K1 Super Tower, a K10 Patrol, and K15, whoops, this side, machines. And future's looking bright. And so that's what we're really looking forward to. We'll be announcing our results for 23 here shortly next week. And we're targeting to get to profitability or break even by the end of the year and continue the double-digit growth. And for all of you guys listening in there, you got to remember, robots will be everywhere. This is not like science fiction or not going to happen. It is going to happen. Anyone who thinks otherwise is in for a rude autonomous awakening.
That is Bill Lee, CEO of Knightscope, spelled with a K, the ticker symbol on the Nasdaq, KSCP. Bill, as always, thanks for your patience and your time. Always great to catch up with you.
Good to see you. Thanks for taking the time.
Absolutely. Thanks, Bill.